Why so grumpy, champ?
I have a question for you.
Okay, what's the question?
Have you ever taken a shit and it smells like weed?
Yeah, once like I eat weed, maybe accidentally. No, wait, wait. You take a shit and it smells like weed?
Mm-hmm. Not burnt weed, but just weed.
Like just bad, like skunky weed.
Yeah, or just kind of weed.
I mean, there's different.
It was skunky.
Okay, skunky kind of weed. Cause like there's also like there's certain kinds of weeds that smell more like
floral.
Yeah, more floral or more just like more like a bush, rather than a fucking raccoon or something.
I liked a skunk, even one could say
skunk, but foxes also smell like skunks, kind of.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because they like piss everywhere.
Yeah, but don't shame them for that, bro.
They piss everywhere.
What's wrong with that? They're just like me for real.
Water balls out for them. They will piss in the water balls oftentimes and drink from them too.
They'll drink their own piss?
Maybe not drink their own piss. They might drink and then mark it. They will eat something with their own piss on it though. Sometimes they'll mark something before eating it. I've seen it happen.
I need to know specifics. Like where were you where did you see a fox piss in a bowl and drink it?
In the trenches, dog.
It all makes sense. How are you doing?
Good, man. Pretty good. I feel pretty good. Us working on that new project got me feeling skronky. But
yeah. I'm also feeling a little bit skronky in regards to the new project. I'm feeling pretty skronked up.
How do you feel overall as well? What about
good?
You?
Been feeling good. I've been watching a lot of Monk. You remember Monk? It's like it came on like NBC or some shit back in the day, but it was like a consultant. He used to be on the police force, like a detective, but he he has a tragic accident and it gives him like the trauma basically gives him OCD or some kind of like OCD / like crazy anxiety. And then he basically uses there's like a reason why he has OCD. Basically his wife dies and the way that she died, like basically just like fried his brain. And so he like blocks a whole bunch of shit out, but also like has OCD and then like uses OCD, like that attention to detail to like get through, like solve crimes, basically. It's good. It's a good show.
I'm not familiar. I wasn't hip. No, sounds cool.
It's like from the late 90s, I wanted to say. Yeah, so I've been watching that.
Yet, bro. I don't know.
Yeah. You're right.
That's probably why I don't remember it, actually.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. But I've been doing that, and I made a mac and cheese last night with beer cheese. I made beer cheese. I'd never done it before. That shit was so fucking good, bro. I fucked it up. I fucked that shit. I ate it. The first bite I said, yo, this is a slutty ass mac and cheese.
I like a slutty mac and cheese.
I know you do. You talk about that quite a lot.
I do, man, because who doesn't? Mac and cheese is a certified slap. If somebody tells me they don't fuck with mac and cheese, even if they're taking Lactaid, or they're not, they don't have any lactose intolerance, they don't fuck with mac and cheese, it's a bit of a red flag.
For sure. I also think that, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like most people that are lactose intolerant want that mac and cheese more than the average person. Like it's like the forbidden fruit.
I mean, also like, you might be able to enjoy the gnarly shits, I sometimes do as a lactose intolerant man. Sometimes I forget a Lactaid and I go, oops, looks like someone's going to have an upset tummy.
Oopsie.
The farts is what sucks. The farts is what sucks if you don't take Lactaid. Because like you get really gassy.
Yeah.
I get really gassy if I don't take a Lactaid and I eat a bunch of cheese. And then I'm like, oh God. And then like it smells like some weed crawled up my ass and died.
I hate it when
or a skunk.
When that pissy weed crawls up my ass like a skunk or a fox would.
You didn't wake up thinking you would say that today, did you?
No, I didn't. That's a string of words for sure. But yeah, I took a shit earlier and it smelled like weed, and I don't know why. So I felt like it was a good thing to talk about. That shit. I should have. I kind of a missed opportunity, honestly.
It reminds
Gotta
me of
fish it out.
memes of like people holding actual turds and being like, "Look at this blunt," and until you click on the picture, you can't tell it's just a turd.
Bro,
It's just
smoking
like,
that
oh
shit.
wow, that's a fat blunt. That's a
Yeah,
fat fucking blunt. They
Taking
be
smoking that shit. Yeah, that's that next level smoking that shit for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's been new with you? Tell me everything. Even the nitty gritty stuff.
Okay, man. Like, are you the government?
Yeah, I want to know what's going on.
I got stuff. I got plans. Ask me next week. Maybe next week I'll have a better update for you.
Okay.
Someone pointed out that on the last episode, it took us 5 years before we did the intro.
Mhm.
So, for that person, let's stretch it to 50 minutes. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Why don't you lead us into the episode's intro?
Of course. Do you want me to just say the intro or maybe do like a little?
Do it. Just surprise me. Like, let's just keep having conversation and just like, just kind of shock me.
Okay. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
when I
good,
least
good.
expected, maybe.
Yeah. So 50 minutes.
That would be least expected for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No. Tell me a story. Hurry.
Yeah, that's normal in the conversation. That's a normal thing to say in a conversation. Tell me a story.
Why not? I want to know. I want to know a story.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So when I was in kindergarten, one of the memories I have in Kazakhstan is that there would be turtles that would just frequent the city we were in, the town we were in. They're just like naturally little turtles, like this small, that would be kind of everywhere-ish. And I remember during lunchtime when we're all outside, motherfuckers, I say motherfuckers, they were all like 3 years old. We were all 3. But, motherfuckers would find turtles in the bushes and be like, I got a turtle, it's my turtle, it's my turtle. And every time I was the only one who could never find a turtle. And that shit made me so sad because I fucking love turtles.
You kind of fucking sucked.
Dude, that was like 30 years ago. Okay, let me live.
Yeah. But you somehow missed the 90s.
Yeah, I was in a coma, dude. I woke up from that coma in 2001, right around the time Dre dropped 2001.
Which is not accurate.
Crazy thing for the game to say on an album that's executive produced by Dr. Dre, who released 2001 in 99.
Well, dude, okay. I agree with what you're saying. However, I think obviously if he said I woke up at that coma in 2001, 2 years after Dre dropped 2001, it doesn't have quite the same. Actually, it kind of does. No, I kind of like 2 years after Dre dropped. It sounds better.
2000, yeah, Chronic 2001. Like
Well, I mean, you could say
he also says like a couple years later, or 2 years later, the album is done, or 3 years later. Like he could have found a way. He could have found some sort of scheme to tap into.
Well, also, where he says, I woke up out of that coma in 2001, around the same time Dre dropped 2001. I mean, it is kind of like around in the grand scheme of things of like the time being infinite. It's kind of like, oh, it's not that far off. It's
I guess. Just kind of like how you were born around 1953.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are now tuning in to Word of Time.
40-50 feet, why don't you turn around and let's go back and into the table. Tell me what the field of view looks like.
That was good. That was good. That was good.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so today's gonna be a very good episode. All the other ones were shitty. This one's a good one.
Fuck all the other episodes.
Yeah, fuck all
them.
the other ones. Thanks a lot for sticking around. Or if you're just tuning in for the first time, shit, this is the perfect one. I wanted to do an episode where we talk a little bit about gear. Not the steroids that you take, but more so hardware gear. Because I'm pretty sure you get this too. A lot of the times people ask me like, Rav, what mic do you use? What software do I get into first? What kind of audio interface do you have? People will ask questions like that. So I feel like what we could do on this episode is go over what we have used, what we use now, and what we would recommend to people. And does it really matter? And if it does, what are the things, the qualifiers that matter when it comes to gear? I think that could make for a, informative conversation, I think.
For sure. That's a question that I answer like every other stream. So I think maybe having a kind of almost an FAQ of, hey, what did you use in 2010 or whatever the fuck,
or 2001.
Yeah, right around the same time Dre dropped 2001. By the way, I was born in 1953. Maybe.
You are now tuning into Void FM. Run the intro. So, Bill, would you like to start with what gear you started with, or should I start since I started before you?
Let's flip a coin. Do you have a coin? I got a Gatorade cap.
Okay, flip it.
All right, heads or tails?
Which top or bottom? Top. I'll go with top.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know where it fell. Top it is, brother.
Okay. All right. So the first piece of gear that I began recording on, I don't remember the exact brand, but it was a little tape recorder. One of them things that, like, when you and I were growing up, journalists would hold up oftentimes to like people they'd be interviewing, like, what do you think about this? And it would just be a recorder that records directly onto a cassette tape, overriding whatever was on the cassette, or if you had a blank, I guess, writing something onto it. I would usually be overriding some bullshit. And I started using it for recording music around 2001.
Damn, that sounds like it was around the time Dre dropped 2001.
You are now tuning in to Void FM. All right, so it was actually, I don't remember, it might have been 2001, might have been 2002. First thing I started doing with it is making little pause tapes in the most stupidest way possible, right? So what I would do is I would grab a part of a song that I would like. Let's say, it would usually be at the end of a song. The beat sometimes would play for a little bit on a song that I would like. So I would get to the part where it's about to play the beat, hit record as it plays that part, then hit stop when it reached the end of that part that I'd want to loop. Then I'd run it back, the music, run it back, hit play, wait patiently for that cue to come up again, hit record, and just do that. And it was not great, but it worked. It was still crazy. I was like, oh my God, I got this beat now. And it would not be perfectly timed, of course. There's no quantizing or anything that you could do with something like that. Then I started making little beats on this bullshit ass Casio keyboard where the keys would light up red when you press them. You could loop one thing on it, I think up to 16 bars or something like that. So I'd loop the drums and then I would play something on top. And usually I would either be doing some sort of Lil Jon thing or an Outkast thing or a Dr. Dre thing. Because they felt like, kind of like, I could break them down in my head to what the drums sound like and what the main tune is or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would oftentimes do that. And sometimes I would try to do my own thing and I would record those onto a tape. I would just kind of keep playing. And in 2002, I want to say actually, no, 2002, 2003. Let's say 2003. I started recording actual rap onto it, like freestyling on the playground. One of the homies would be providing a beatbox. Me and my other homie would be rapping over it, record that. And then on my way home, riding home, listening to that back, like, yo, I have a song. The quality was trash, but I thought that was so cool that like it's a song. It's a song. Like no matter how you look at it, it's a fucking song. So that
You made a song, a full song.
I made a song. That was my first piece of technology. It would stay that way for a long time. When I finally moved on to computer shit, I had like this tiny microphone that was like looked like one of those like clip-on interview mics, quite honestly, right? But it would go straight into the aux, the mic in thing. I plugged that in. I'd have Audacity. Audacity's been around for a millennia, y'all. I swear.
Yeah.
It was already out back then. So I would use that to record. Just throw a beat in on one of the channels, record on a different channel. And I would use that. And I would use that for so long. I remember I went over to one of my homies' houses and we wanted to have a pop filter. Not even because we wanted to stop pops. Because we didn't even know what that was the intended purpose of a pop filter, you know? We just like that shit looked cool. So I remember the homie pulled out the spaghetti strainer and we rapped through the spaghetti strainer.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Not the spaghetti, the colander, bro. You brought that shit out.
Yeah.
Bro, that's crazy.
So,
that's like the most. You told me this story before, and every time you told it like 2 or 3 times I've been around you, and every time you say that shit, I always forget. It's like I block that out. That's a thing. 'Cause it's so fucking funny.
One time, the homie took his mother's tights and stretched the tights over the colander, and that was like, and we were like, "Yo."
Bro, he was cooking with the tights, just not the
tights
colander.
would work better than the
yeah.
It worked for something, I guess. It made us feel cool. It would be many years before I'd be able to switch to something else and I would put out music on MySpace and all that during this time. The reason it was hard for me to switch over to something different is I remember I got this microphone that kind of looked cool. It was a dynamic mic. I had no idea what the different types of mics were. All I knew is I can't plug this one into my fucking laptop. And I didn't know like you needed an audio interface or anything like that. So I was like, this is fucking useless. I was trying to find a converter that would go like convert the outputs, the XLR, I think, or whatever it was, straight into just like a aux.
Yeah.
And for years, I didn't know how to use that shit until around 2006 is when I finally got a large diaphragm mic. It was a Rode NT2A, and I got an ASIO audio interface, I think. Or maybe even before then, I had one of those like mixers that you would see at like, not even a Guitar Center, but like a Best Buy or stores that you don't usually go to for music. And it's just like, you know, it would look like one of those radio ones where there would be a bunch of faders, a bunch of knobs, but it's super basic, but it would have like 99 effects or 14 effects or whatever the fuck it was. That's the first thing I started recording with. It barely had phantom power. There was so much noise in my recording, so much fuzz. For like, that's when I started uploading music more deliberately online. This was 2006, 2007. I thought it was hot shit. What about you?
When I first started, well, there's okay. I had my for Christmas, my parents bought me this thing. It's called a digital blue camera. And it was, you could hold it like this. It almost was like you held it like a gun. You know, like I had like a trigger, and then you held the trigger, and it could film up to like 10 seconds or something per video. Like, and it could fit like 10 videos on there. And so like I would take this thing. This is unrelated to music. They just bought it for me because I was like a creative kid. And they were just like, fuck it, like, have fun, do your thing. And so I used to make these like silly movies with it. And me and my friends would get together and like we would do that. And then there was like an editing program on there, like that came with it. It was just like a disc, and then you just put it into a computer. And this is like 2001, 2002. And I really was super into music. And my head, like every time you hear like interviews or people on like MTV or VH1 talk about like, yeah, all we had was a 4-track recorder. And I was like, damn, I need a 4-track recorder, whatever the fuck that is. And my mom was like, well, yeah, it's like a 4-track. So you could like put the drums on one and the bass and the guitar and the vocals. And that's all you need. And I was just like, damn, you're right. And so I tried doing this thing with you could record audio if you had the camera like plugged into its little base it was a USB. device. And so my parents had like a shitty like compact computer, and I'm just chilling there, and I had a keyboard that could play different instruments and stuff. And so I would like play drums, and then I would like bring my guitar out and like play acoustic guitar over it. But I wouldn't play it over it. I would just like play it just by itself, and then I would play them all together. And so I would have that, and then I would make like a bass sound, and then me playing guitar, and then me singing over the top of it. And it just sounded like a mess because like it was not on beat or on key or anything, you know? It was just bad. And so I was like, dang, like how do you do it where you can hear what's happening? And I was too young to ask for like my mom wasn't going to buy me like fucking recording equipment or anything like that. I was like, 10, 11 years old. And so a little bit of time goes by, and then that was kind of when I started I started making beats on my Xbox. I actually played a whole bunch of old beats that I made on my Xbox on stream the other day, but I had
some of them were fire.
Some of them were, some of them weren't.
Still, it's crazy that's what you started producing on.
Yeah, that's how I started producing. Basically, I really wanted to be in a band or something like that, but I didn't have any friends who made music. And so I was just like, okay, cool. Or at least like took it serious like I wanted to. Like I was like, I want to be a famous musician, And so I bought a fucking, it was MTV Music Generator 3. You could rip samples from like, you could rip music onto your Xbox from CDs. So you could take little like 10-second samples and like just kind of make them on beat, kind of, you know what I mean? It was hard to do, and it was very rudimentary, but you could make beats on it. And so that's how I started making beats. And I never could figure out how to get those sounds off of the Xbox and into an MP3, basically. I didn't get how to do that, which is crazy that I could do it now. But, anyway, so that was kind of when I started making beats. And then I had that same camera, and when I was like 15 or 16, I realized that in Windows Movie Maker, you can go through and like do like dubs over it. Like it's like, oh, you want to do narration or whatever over your shitty video. And I realized, oh, you can just straight up do that with MP3 files that you get off LimeWire. And so I would just find beats on LimeWire of songs that already existed, and I would into my shitty camera microphone, just rap over it. And it sounded so bad because there was no effects. Like you couldn't add any compression or reverb or anything. It was just raw vocals. Yeah. And so I would do that.
How did you feel? How did you feel making music around this time? On both your Xbox, how did it make you feel like hearing like, holy shit, I'm creating something new? And in the Windows Media Maker, recording and hearing your voice back. Do you remember how you felt around that time?
Well, there was a few times making beats where I was like, oh, I could be, because like this is like, I was really into like Kanye around that time, like his first 2 albums that just came out. And I was like, damn, I could write something to these beats and these could be songs. Like I could just self-produce. Like that was kind of my thing. At first I wanted to be like a producer rapper, like almost more of a producer than a rapper guy.
Right.
And or known for that, and so because all my favorites were like him and Lil Jon were producer rappers at the time. And I felt super cool writing to that stuff. And then when I started laying stuff down, I couldn't figure out how to like make beats and rap over them at that point. But I knew how to make beats on my Xbox and I knew how to rap, sort of. But when I remember I wrote to the first thing I ever recorded was to Down by Cameron and Kanye West. And I just ripped that beat off of LimeWire. And I just loved that beat. And I was just like, yo, I'm going to just, rap something to that. And I thought like I was
a beat for many years, dude. I remember that. Even when we met, you would tell me how much you loved that beat, how much
I still do. And it's not a Kanye beat, but I thought it was. It didn't matter to me. It was just hard. Yeah, no. I thought I was the shit when I recorded that first thing. It was just like, and I would show it to my friends, and my friends, like, I guess their gauges for like what was good and what wasn't, because it sounded like shit. Like in terms of like the vocal mixing, it was just bad. But people would listen to it, and I would just like give them one earbud and be like, yo, listen, we'd listen together. And they would be like, yo, like, you could be famous. and like all this shit all the time. They were like, because nobody was doing that in my school. I was literally the only dude. I didn't get actual good microphone. I got like one where you're talking about, like almost like it was like this big, and it was like it just kind of hangs down or whatever, and it went into the sound blaster. I don't know if you ever had a sound blaster. Yeah. It was like an audio in jack, but then there was like a thing that you could put inside that was like a better sound card called
I didn't have none
sound
like that.
blaster. It was like it used to be a super famous card. It came with my laptop. My mom got me a laptop when I was like 16 or 17 that had one. And because she was like, oh, he loves making music, this would be cool for him, you know? I would plug into that. And then at that point, I had learned to use like Adobe Audition. And I had kind of learned how to mix a little bit. I don't remember what microphone it was. I just know it was a X5 like sound. It was the one that came with the card. And those sounded a little bit better. And then it took me a long time to save up to get my condenser mic, which was a Studio Project C1 condenser, which I don't think is a very popular mic. And I think that it might be discontinued now. I don't know. That's what I was recording on for a very long time. And then it took me forever to figure out how to get an interface to work with it. Like you were saying, like I didn't know what to do. I just bought the microphone and was like, oh shit, I need an interface. And I ended up getting monitors with it too. Like I just worked all summer to just basically make a shitty studio. Not a shitty studio. It was fine, but you know what I mean.
I mean, that microphone, correct me if I'm wrong, ended up being the mic you used mostly for resin and drop season, and also much of Ramona.
Yeah, like Black Coffee I did on their Conversations with Gravity. I think I did on there.
Did you do Black Coffee, re-record Black Coffee on the U87?
I didn't.
Okay.
I did not. I remember specifically being like, oh, should I re-record this? And I said, nah. But there was a few of them. Like, I think we redid Chinatown on there about last night. Yeah, because the hook was still on that C1 mic.
Yeah.
I never re-recorded
I found the old version of the song on my external hard drive the other day.
Yeah. No, I found it too because it's still on my Tumblr somewhere. We went through my Tumblr and like listened to all those songs on stream the other day. But,
Backwoods, Pork, Abandoned 2. These were all on the U87. But much of the album, and I mean, you can't really tell. There's only one song that wasn't recorded on either mic.
Summertime. Yeah, that was recorded at Kubrick's house. I don't remember what kind of mic he had.
On the ribbon mic, I think.
Yeah, it was a weird mic. It sounds good on the record. Yeah. But there wasn't even that much processing done. I think he just like kind of blowed it up a little bit. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I used that Studio Project C1 mic, and that was my go-to mic until I got this one, which is a TLM 103. And this is like, it smokes the other one. But the other one was great. I mean, I paid like $200 or something for it at the time.
It's such a good mic. I was so surprised for how affordable it is. How amazing you made it sound. Like it worked real good.
Yeah, no, I think it wasn't even just, it was just a flat mic. Like that's the best thing is like when you have like a flat mic, because like if you look at like the frequency response for like a U87, it's pretty flat. It's like, that's kind of what you're aiming for, I think, you know? And I was really surprised. I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody I knew online that had one, and I liked their vocal mixes a lot, the C1. And they were just like, yo, you should get this mic if you really want one. It was cheap. And yeah, nobody really used it. Like I've never met anyone else that used a C1 ever. It was good though. I fucked with it. I still have it somewhere. Yeah, but I used that. And as far as the interface, back in the day, I used some shitty M Audio one. I don't even think M Audio is a thing anymore. Are they? I know they got bought out by, I don't even know. I can't remember.
Well, you know what? Let's stick to recording for now. We can move on to the production stuff at another time or later in the podcast. But let's focus on microphones and audio interfaces. Ultimately, I agree with you. The most important thing is having that flat mic. The Rode NT2A that I got initially was after having done some research in 2006 and coming to the conclusion that that was an affordable-ish attempt at trying to have a flat mic akin to a Neumann U87, which is sort of the industry standard for a lot of people. I know that there are better mics or more expensive mics out there, don't get me wrong, but the U87 is known for its, you know, quality, but also the flat response. Same as the TLM 103. In fact, they share the same capsule, right? I actually bought a U87. I got a U87, not bought, I got it. That was a present. I got the U87, I want to say 2010, maybe. 2010, 2011. And I then used it for many, many years. It was my primary mic until 2 summers back when it got stolen. Then I bought the TLM 103, just like you. And I also use this mic right here for a lot of my recordings, which is the MKH 416. And the important thing, if you're listening to this and you're wondering what kind of mic should I get? Should I get a mic like them? You have to figure out what is it that you're going to be using it for. If you're specifically talking about vocals or rapping, a lot of things could work. Honestly, even a dynamic microphone, like one of those Shure 57s, 58s, could be good. Depending on what kind of rap music you're making. Now, if you're going for something really clean or you want to be able to freak your vocals in many different ways, then a flat response will always do you good, but you don't have to go for a Newman mic. You could go for the one that Bill was talking about, the C1. You could go with the Rode NT2A. You could go with many mics like that. You just have to identify what is it, the kind of sound that you're trying to go for. And also, what is your vocal range like? Certain microphones complement certain voices and ranges better than others. That's my input as far as mics go, but you don't have to break the bank. There's so many records out there that are incredible and oftentimes recorded on fucking rock band mics.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I think that there's a lot of very famous people that use like shitty equipment. Like I remember like you know, Freddie Dredd said that he used a Rock Band mic for a while. I don't know if he still does, but I remember like back in the day when I first talked to him, that was like what he said that he used for a lot of those older records that really kind of popped off. And then like even like I remember the first version of like Doja Cat's So High was recorded on a microphone. Yeah. It
was on a MacBook. It was a microphone directly in the MacBook. I think I even asked her around that time, you know, but you could hear on the early version of So High that the air, like the sound of like recording, you know, like the MacBook sound and everything. She'd record directly onto her MacBook. It's kind of like almost like cameras, you know. Oftentimes, photographers will say the best camera you can have, the best camera is the one you have. I think is what photographers say, right?
That's good.
And I would say it's kind of a similar thing with recording. Like the best microphone you have is the one you already have. See what you can do with it. Now, if you reach certain limitations and you're incapable of like doing certain things because of the hardware limitations of your mic, then explore some options out there. And once you've set your eyes on a mic, don't buy a new one. Facebook Marketplace or Reverb, but I would suggest Facebook Marketplace, even cheaper in my experience. And I'm telling you, some of your faves, including Andre 3 Stacks, uses Facebook Marketplace. I know this because he and I have bought equipment from the same guy. Save money. Like none of that. No one's going to hear. They're like, oh, that's a good song. Wait a minute. Is that a secondhand mic that I hear?
Yeah.
So long as it works, it works. Save yourself some money. Don't splash out like on the piece of gear. Careful not to get what's it called? Gear acquisition syndrome, right? Gas. Don't start going down the rabbit hole of gear on YouTube and get carried away with like, well, if only I had this piece of gear, then suddenly I would make a good album. Just focus on making the art. Once you hit certain walls, you'll feel it. You'll know that you're trying to make something like this specifically, and the hardware limitations are preventing you from doing it. Then acquire the gear. But don't look for gear with hopes that the gear is going to inspire better art, because that's not how things usually work.
For sure. One thing that I've noticed about getting better gear as I've like started, you know, as I've gone on and upgraded as time has gone on, to me, it's less about this feeling of like, oh, if I had this thing, then everything would be so like I could just do anything, you know? Like if I had this microphone, anything. To me, it's less about that and more about it's easier. Like everything, if you do something all the time, for me, like the TLM versus the Studio Project C1, if you were to talk about like, is it like a way, way, way better mic? Is it really worth like 4 times or 8 times, or sorry, 5 times more expense wise, like in terms of the sound? I really wouldn't even say that. I'd just say that I had to work harder to make the C1 sound good in certain situations. And with the TLM 103, I don't have to work as hard. I still have to work on it. Like there's still stuff, but it's like knowing that these frequencies are going to pop out right, especially when I do low stuff in this. I feel like I hear better high end in my vocals, like in terms of like hearing like the grains in my voice and stuff like that. When I really fry it out, it sounds better.
For clarity.
Yeah, for clarity.
Always good for clarity. Yeah,
for sure. But I mean, a lot of that it's not going to be that big of a difference in terms of, it's just going to take time to make the other one sound better, I think. And the more expensive the mic, to me, it feels like the easier it is to use in versatile situations, like it being versatile. I mean,
there's also like a matter of like diminishing returns after a certain point. Like
for sure,
the U87 costs like 3 times more than the TLM 103, but the way that you and I use microphones, which is always cardioid and always in a specific way, only for vocals, for rapping, that price difference is like crazy. There's no point. Like they're doing the exact same thing, but one is doing it 3 times the price. So be careful with that. And yes, there are microphones out there that cost 10 grand, you know, upwards of 10 grand. Again, none of that shit matters, especially if you don't have the right audio interface and or preamp for it. So this is a good opportunity for us to move on to that conversation, because I think a lot of times, especially when someone's new, they get into this. I went through this, as we established earlier. I was under the impression you get a good mic, you're set. But essentially, your microphone is like a piece of hardware that captures your vocals and then converts it into like, it needs something to convert it into like a digital signal for your software to interpret it and capture it. It's like a very reductive way of explaining it. But that's what the audio interface is. It's like the thing that translates that signal. And it can translate it accurately, it can translate it loud, or it can translate it poorly with hiss, with delay, latency, etc. All these different things depending on the quality of your audio interface. What would you say are some of the key things for those looking to get an audio interface? Because for me, I honestly don't know. I would say, hey, if you're recording on a cardioid or a large diaphragm mic or a ribbon mic or whatever, no, specifically large diaphragm and cardioid mics, you're going to need phantom power, 48 volts plus.
Yeah.
So get an audio interface that supports phantom power, and something that you can plug your mic into, XLR, and see if you can plug it into your computer. Is it USB, or is it, what was the old thing called? Firewire. Like if you buy
Thunderbolt,
a Firewire
same
audio
thing.
interface and you don't have Firewire support because you're using a fucking laptop or something, that could be an oopsie, you know, and just look out for that. But I don't think that people sell that anymore.
No, I think it's outdated because USB-C is just like a better version of Firewire. I think it's like the same idea, but just faster in every way.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times it's either you see the USB-A or the USB-C interfaces now. I mean, I feel like at this point, most interfaces come with 48 volt phantom power. Like I would not buy an interface even if I didn't have if I had a dynamic mic, I would still want it just like in case, you know. It's not like having that switch is too much to ask, because it's like you can buy them for super cheap that have that. For me, I mean, honestly, like just one that works well, and this is
Scarlett.
a time for me to let me I got beef with the Scarlet, boy. I got beef. I got big beef with the Scarlet.
That's right. Fuck. Oh my God. Ramona was a nightmare to record.
Well, no, we didn't have the Scarlet for that. Towards the ass end, we did. Okay, so the first one was an M audio interface, and that one gave me blue screens constantly, and I just thought that was a part of my existence, and that's fine. The Ramona thing was I had a faulty RAM stick, and I took it in, and the guy missed it. And he was like, I don't know what's wrong with it. And then like my friend just fixed it like way later in life.
Remember we would record perfect takes and be like, that's the one. That's the one. Hit play and it's just distorted.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So that was what we were going through with Ramona. Good times. Let's see. The Firewire one. Sorry, the Firewire one. Wow, I'm an idiot. The Scarlet one. The issue that I had with it was a Focusrite Scarlet, and it's like the most popular, or like you see it in memes all the time. Oh, if you see him with this, then run. It's a red flag or whatever. It's like, it's like the most popular one. For whatever reason, for me, the first one I bought actually fried my laptop. I don't know if you remember this or you were living with me at this point, but I had it plugged in, and then all of a sudden my laptop made a loud popping noise, and I smelled smoke, and it was coming through the USB port that was connected to the Scarlet. I don't know.
Cooking.
Yeah, completely destroyed like my whole everything. The laptop still works to this day. It just can't be plugged into anything. Right. So it kind of doesn't. But also I had a lot of issues with streaming when I was like, I know this is a different thing, but I would have really bad latency issues when I would stream with the Scarlet. Like I would say something, I would like it would be like, hey, like everything was like wrong. I don't know why. And then when I fixed it, when I got a new interface, it just fixed itself immediately. I've also just heard a lot of
audio on your computer desktop, like a beat, and you try to rap over it. You wouldn't know on your end that there's latency, but if people are watching stream, there'd be latency, so you'd be always a little off.
And the thing that bothered me about this is that everybody in the chat was like, no, it still sounds good, bro. It sounds good. And then I would go back and listen to it, and it would sound like ass. And I was like, why ain't any of y'all know I'm a better rapper than that, bro? Like, y'all got me fucked up.
They're like, this is what you usually sound like to us.
Jesus Christ, bro. That makes me feel so bad every time. Oh my God. Don't be nice. Just say it. Like, oh man, that sounds offbeat. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I can't tell if people can tell or not. Yeah, no, I had beef with the Scarlet, but I mean, it's fine for other than the fact that it could fry your computer, maybe, but that might have been something completely
maybe, because I had a Scarlet for a little while, the smallest one that I think only had a single input, because I didn't need more than one mic plugged in at any point. And that one was super cheap too, and so small. I got it for its form factor initially.
Yeah. But
I've gone through so many different interfaces throughout the years. And one of my favorite ones I used was the SSL2 Plus or whatever.
That's what I'm using right now.
It was great, but I switched over to this right here, the Apogee Duet 3. And the reason I switched over to this is because it's the size of my phone. And form factor is an important thing for me. I want to be able to fit most of my studio in a backpack so that I can be mobile. So that's why I got it. Also, it's got really good compression settings that I can play with and different things that basically make the sound really good. You can definitely achieve the kind of quality on this you can't really get out of Focusrite,
For sure.
But also, I can't necessarily get the, those like $4,000 microphone preamp quality either that people would probably recommend on a mic like the TLM 103 if you really want to make your life even easier, right? You were talking about how like making your life easier, like just like a better microphone can make your life easier. The better interface can certainly make your life easier, but I'm just not trying to drop multiple grand on a preamp at the moment.
Well, this is how I feel about it. I feel like that would be wonderful if you had the money. If you had the money, go for it,
Yeah.
But it's just like a lot of people's favorite joints of mine are recorded on a C1 and aren't mixed super well. Like I feel like I'm a better engineer than I was then, and there are times where I do feel like we talk about like diminishing returns. Sometimes it's like I'm like half the time it's like I feel like I'll stress so much about a mix or how my voice sounds on this or whatever the thing is, and most people are like, "Yeah, it sounds good." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It feels kind of like the average person. It's like, can I hear what you're saying? Does it sound sort of pretty? Is it not half-assed? Cool. This sounds good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Some of my favorite shit's been recorded. There's like some of my favorite Jay-Z verses were ones he recorded on an iPhone.
Yeah.
You know, he literally used the iPhone mic, recorded it on the iPhone mic, and then they mixed that audio. Some of my favorite audio is within hotel rooms, recorded on affordable large diaphragm mics, or sometimes like the Michael Jackson, Joe Rogan mic, you know, like Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia recorded their latest album mostly on the SM58.
I'm wanting to say it's either 57 or 58. I can't remember.
Whichever one Mitch has got. Ultimately, you know, you could spend 20 grand on an incredible mic, incredible preamp, audio interface, and, you know, like compressor or all of that kind of situation. You could do that, sure. But if you don't make compelling music, none of that shit matters. Conversely, if you have really good ideas and you can execute them with what you already have, that shit's gonna be infinitely better than like good quality gear given to someone who doesn't know what they're doing. So just do what you can with what you have, and when the time comes and you can upgrade some of your things to make your life easier, your quality of life, or streamline your workflow, do it. But don't make it your top priority to like, oh man, like once I have good quality shit, that's when the creativity juices are gonna start flowing, because that's never how it works in any medium, in
For
my
sure.
opinion.
No, I fully agree with that. One thing that, like, if you are mixing your own stuff, so I'm gonna just assume that most people are, because I feel like that's how most people get started anyway. If you're mixing your own stuff, I feel like if you're the type of person that enjoys going down the rabbit hole of like, well, if I had this gear, well, if I had this, I feel like if you dumped that energy instead of pining over gear that will cost you an arm and a leg and a mortgage, like instead of doing that, sit down and watch a whole bunch of like mixing tutorials on YouTube. There's so many of them. And I guarantee you, if you just sit down and learn the fundamentals of like, cool, this is the type of EQ I should do on a vocal roughly, and then kind of freak it from there, or like learn how compression works, learn how not to make your reverb sound crazy. You know what I mean? Like all these like little things like that. It'll sound like infinitely better than if you just like dump money into equipment and just like think that's going to fix whatever your issue is with your recordings. I feel like learning how to use things before buying them is probably the best thing you can do. And you can then learn, hey, maybe I don't have to spend fucking $4,000 on a microphone. I could spend 200 and it'll sound exactly how I want it.
Exactly. And yeah, you're right. There's no shortage of resources these days. Whereas when we were learning how to use a lot of our gear, there weren't really YouTube videos for it. And the only discussions you'd have on like places like Gear Sluts would be just toxic hip hop hating ass places. So
Yeah.
now you don't have that excuse. There's just so many resources that you can tap into. And Bill's right. Get your fundamentals down. Basically figure out like, oh, what does this thing do? What does that do? Kind of like if you're about to paint something and you have like a myriad of mediums before you, like if you don't know what does what, you might not know where your strengths lie. You might not know what you can or cannot execute. So yeah, get your fundamentals down.
I never thought about it the way you just said it, but it does kind of feel like having like an easel with a whole bunch of paint, and you're just like, man, I kind of suck at this drawing thing. You know what would fix this? Way more colors. Like
Yeah, more expensive paint.
Exactly.
Yeah, the paint's not expensive enough. You know, like if I had the specific rouge red, then people would be like, damn, your art's banging. It's like, no, bro, if your paintings are good, they're good. And like develop on that. Equipment, gear is a means to an end, not the end. That's the important thing. And I think a lot of us get caught up in the consumerist whirlpool that in the music world is specifically referred to as, gear acquisition syndrome. But the reality is it's a trap we all fall into. Even some of your favorite producers and rappers sometimes fall into that trap. But ultimately remind yourself that in the end, that stuff doesn't matter as much. Be smart. And as for software for recording your vocals into something, you could use audio, or you could use Audacity. I use Adobe Audition. Some people use FL, some people use Ableton, some people use Logic. Whatever you end up using, it doesn't matter. That shit doesn't matter. They all kind of function the same way. Just see what works for you, what you prefer. And you don't have to drop a bag either. Most of these things you can pirate. And then like if you start making money off of your music, then go and purchase the software later down the line. But there's no point in purchasing it up front, especially if you're struggling with money or that money would be better used going towards someone else like rent or food. Don't feel bad. These corporations are not starving. They're not going to go under because you pirated their software to make a shitty beat or record a shitty song.
Well, FL Studio, well, sorry not to interrupt you, but FL Studio's whole business model originally was built on the back of the idea that people are going to pirate this, and then like of those like 100 people that pirate it, 20 people will buy it. Like that's like a thing. There's articles on that and shit. It's a thing that exists. Like that was a part of their strategy, was making, that's why it's so easy to do. I'm not officially condoning piracy.
I am. I was pirating shit for so many years, so much software. But once I started, getting the bag, I bought Ableton. I bought FL. I pay for an Adobe subscription that is an absolute ripoff. I do these things because I can, and they make my life easier, being able to update things sometimes when I need to, So that's why I got it. But if I wasn't making money off of it, best believe I'd still be pirating that shit. Get your priorities straight. Think about what actually fucking matters to you before you dive head first. Now, as for other gear, production gear, perhaps camera gear, all of that, I feel like we should talk about it behind the paywall. I think it'd be a nice thing this week to continue the discussion, but behind the paywall. And for now, switch gears.
Gear switching.
Obscure hip-hop facts with Rav and Kill Bill the Rapper. Here's this week's fact numero uno.
Hit us with it, Daddy-O.
Did you know that A$AP Ferg's father, Daryl Ferguson, designed the Bad Boy logo?
Damn, I did not know that.
And that allegedly Ferg may have been used as the reference for the baby in the logo.
That's crazy. Allegedly.
See the smug ass look on my face?
That's pretty smug.
Yeah, what a small world, huh?
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it kind of weirdly makes sense. Like, I feel like if any baby was gonna be that, it would be Ferg. Ferg feels like it works. I don't know why or how, it just works.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to add to that. It's a small,
good,
but kind of cool fact.
Okay, so I got one for you. Did you know that Pusha T wrote the "Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it" jingle for McDonald's? I know you already knew that, but
oh, hold on, sorry. Whoa!
That's good. That's good.
No way. Nuh-uh. No way.
Yeah, apparently how it ended up happening was, Pusha T was a part of the Clips with Malice, and he was working very heavily with Pharrell at the time, which, obviously legendary records. Justin Timberlake had just split off from NSYNC around this time, and he was also working with Pharrell, and that's how it all linked up. And then basically, I think Justin got paid like $6 million to sing that for McDonald's, but Pusha T wrote it, and he actually, I don't know how much money he actually got from it, but I know that he didn't get very much or any publishing off of that song. jingle, whatever you call it. He eventually wrote a diss track about it in 2022, dissing McDonald's and also calling the fillet of fish shit. Yeah, King Push coming from McDonald's' throat. Got to get that publishing though.
Who'd have thought, right? The fucking one of the greatest cocaine pushing rappers of all time, right? Coke bar rappers out there. McDonald's jingle. What the hey, right?
What?
Oh,
Can we use that?
that's
in
a
the
good
video?
one. It's a classic, you know?
Yeah, classic.
It's a classic fact. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for that.
Thank you for listening to my classic facts.
I wasn't actually. I just improvised the response. I have no idea what you've been saying.
Yeah, this whole time it was all about, here's a classic fact. Rav is dumb.
Well, that's not a fun fact. Everyone already knows.
Yeah, hit me with yours now. What's your number 2?
Did you know that Biggie, Jay-Z, and Busta Rhymes went to the same high school? In fact, the latter two even rap battled in the cafeteria at one point, with Hove winning.
I did not know that, but I weirdly believe that. That feels like a thing that would exist.
I don't know if Biggie went to that school at the same time as Jay and Busta. I don't know what their age difference is. I don't remember the age gap. I just kind of assumed that Jay and Busta were older, maybe by like a couple years, but maybe I'm tripping. Either way, Jay-Z and Busta Rhymes rap battled at the cafeteria, and Jay-Z won. What an interesting, again, what a small world, you know?
Yeah, that's crazy. Also, what an L for Busta Rhymes.
Yeah. Look, can you blame him? He battled Hove.
Yeah, you're right. It's a pretty there's a tall order trying to beat Hove in a rap battle, especially around that time.
People to lose to.
For sure.
Certainly.
For sure. I feel like I've lost to worse people than Hove in my day.
Same. So, shout outs Busta Rhymes, shout outs Jay-Z, rest in peace Notorious B.I.G.
That was a good fact. Let me hit you with one. Did you know that Del the Funky Homo Sapien is Ice Cube's cousin? And there was a period of time where they frequently ghost wrote for each other while Ice Cube was working with the Lynch Mob.
Shout outs Ice Cube, Lynch Mob, and Del. That's crazy. I've known about this, but it's them being cousins is crazy enough already because music-wise, it feels like two different worlds, two very different worlds. But the fact that they have ghost written for one another is really the fact that blows my mind the most.
Well, the thing that's weird about it for me is that, Ice Cube was like one of the first or most prominent gangster rappers, that I can think of, I mean, like with NWA and everything, and also ghostwriting a lot of like crazy NWA stuff. The fact that like the world is colliding with the dude who like Del was the first person I think to ever drop anime bars. Like he had like Ghost in the Shell references and stuff in like the year like 1999, 2000, something like that, which is fucking crazy. Yeah. But apparently, from what I read in the article talking about this, that basically when Ice Cube was working with the Lynch Mob, Yo-Yo was dropping an album before Del was. And so Del was kind of sitting on his hands and didn't have a way to make money. And as an opportunity to make money, they said, hey, why don't you write some for Yo-Yo, even though Yo-Yo didn't need a ghostwriter at the time, just to kind of make him some money. And then they would trade back and forth all the time just to kind of make money and like get their feet wet doing something else, And so that was kind of the situation. So it wasn't a situation where like Cube needed him or vice versa. It was kind of just hey, I got you here, you get me here kind of situation. Apparently Ice Cube wrote Dr. Bombay, which is one of my favorite Del songs. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Great fact. So shout out Del, shout out Ice Cube, shout out Lynch Mob, shout out everybody who needs to be shouted out.
Peace to all of them.
Hell yeah.
Here's my last fact of the week, Bill. Did you know that actor, screenwriter, and producer Tom Hardy, before he became a mainstay in Hollywood, was signed as a rapper in the 90s?
No, that is... Go on.
Yes, he recorded a whole project. I mean, the rap career, by all accounts, was a failed one. Even though he did manage to get signed early on, it was him and his homie Eddie Too Tall, and I think he went by Tommy Number One.
That's so
And
funny.
they put together a whole ass project in the 90s, and it wasn't released until like I want to say, hold on, 2018 or something, maybe a little earlier than that, but until fairly recently. I'd recommend peeping it because although he himself will tell you that he wasn't very good at rapping, the tape's a banger. It's
Really?
like, it's really dope. It's like, at least from the production standpoint, first of all, it's really cool. A lot of aggression, you could tell he loves hip hop. Both him and his homie love hip hop. It sounds like just pure 90s nostalgia, just like the best types of beats. Like Tribe Called Quest, Mobb Deep type beats. It sounds
Hell yeah.
amazing. It sounds clean. I believe he remained a fan of hip hop, remains a hip hop fan to this day. I think I may be wrong on this. We might need to double check this before we include this in the short. I believe he may have been the reason they got Little Sims to do the Venom theme song for the sequel Venom movie.
That's
Because
sick.
he's a huge Little Sims fan.
That's super sick. Shout out Lil Sims. Lil Sims is
Shout out Lil
super
Sims.
goated.
It's crazy to think that Eminem did that Venom on the first movie. And then in the second one, Tom Hardy's like, can we get Lil Sims?
Yeah.
She killed that shit. That's an incredible song. So just a fun fact, just, handsome, as far as we know, non-problematic, prominent white person in arts and entertainment sphere. Started off as a fucking rapper and model, but yes, rapper.
Good for him. I got to check that tape out. I'm checking that out as soon as we're done.
Yeah, I'm gonna slide you the link.
Yeah, give me that
But yeah,
link. Give me
peace to
that
Tom
link.
Hardy. Peace to Eddie Too Tall. Peace to Lil Sims.
Tommy Number One, baby.
Tommy Number One. The album is called Falling on Your Arse in 1999.
That's hard as shit. That's hard as shit, man. That's crazy. So I got one more here. Did you know that Danny Brown was almost in G Unit? In fact, Danny Brown and Tony Yayo have a mixtape together that they put out in 2010 called Hawaiian Snow.
The cover on that project is crazy.
Yeah, I had no idea that Danny Brown and Tony, I knew that they knew each other. I knew the G Unit story, but I didn't know how deep it got because I had just heard that the story of Danny Brown allegedly saying that the only reason that he didn't sign to G Unit is because G Unit didn't fuck with the fact that he wore skinny jeans, which is kind of funny in retrospect. But yeah, apparently there's some little B features on this album as well. This mixtape, sorry.
Yeah, two of them.
Yeah, so there's two little. So the idea, first of all, the idea of Danny Brown working with Tony Yayo is a little unhinged. It kind of works, I get it, but it's a little unhinged. But the fact that like Lil B was on there twice is real crazy. What a real crazy time for 2010 was a wild time for hip hop. I feel like
year before Triple X dropped, I think. So the Hybrid came out in 2010 as well. So it came out first, then Hawaiian Snow, and then Triple X the following year. That's crazy that in between the Hybrid and Triple X, there's a mixtape with Tony Yayo that's sandwiched between those two legendary projects.
Shout out Danny Brown, shout out Tony Yayo, shout out G Unit, shout out everybody.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to make this awkward now for no reason. Just trying to be like, oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Okay. Well, we could just do this for like 5 more minutes. Just kind of, yeah, so.
Those are fun facts. Those were fun facts. Eventually, we're going to run out of fun facts, but not today.
No, because Rav has 84 left in his chamber.
At least.
I'm all tapped out.
No, you're not. I'm going to start making a separate list for you.
No. I'm going to find on my own, but right now I'm tapped out. I'm like you're like a magazine, like a big, one of those big drum barrels, that you use like on a gun, and I'm like a 6-shooter, but less than that, a 3-shooter.
Yeah. Well, shoot. Speaking of shooting, why don't you shoot us a unique promo for the Patreon?
Oh man, listen, have you ever asked yourself, hey self, what the fuck am I doing today on this Wednesday?
Yep.
I got the answer for you. You're clicking on the patreon.com/VoidFM podcast, and you're clicking the subscribe button, and the money's coming out of your account and going into our account, filtered through Patreon, which takes a small cut. And I'll tell you one thing, you won't be bored tonight because you got another episode of the Void FM podcast that you can only get on Patreon. However, you also got all the old episodes too. You're like, whoa, what the hey? There's a bunch of old. There's like 6 or 7. I don't know, dude. I can't count it, but you're there and you can look at it. And also there's some other stuff in there. There's like Rav's beats that he made on his OP1 when we were on that cabin trip and traveling up the damn mountain. Those are there. I'm sure there'll be other cool things there too. No promises, but I'm pretty sure they'll be there too. And Mitch is there.
Are you going to upload something interesting, Bill?
Maybe. Who knows? I could do it right now.
The conversation, this episode, we talked about gear. We're going to resume that conversation behind the paywall. So if you're really into this conversation, you're like, oh, I want to know more. Hey, you want to know more? Well, you can. You can.
Talk to him.
By gum, you can.
Don't take his word for it. Also take my word for it. A completely unbiased opinion. I get nothing from this. Purchase. Buy, sell. I am the voice of capitalism in your ear. Please purchase your tracks today. Go on now. Get in there. Go to buy things, and we make the money because we need it, because we're financial destitutes from our merch run being destroyed. Please, this is all we have. Any day now, I could go, I could die, and unless you give me money, the healthcare is expensive. Give me the money. Give.
Mitch, carry us into the void.
Pirate everything except our Patreon. The following is a preview of this week's Patreon exclusive episode. Available now over on the Void FM podcast Patreon.
Like just production stuff. I started doing ambient stuff outside of my hip hop stuff. I wanted to make video game like music. By the way, you're kind of frozen for me, but this is the perfect pose to be frozen at, so don't even trip.
I said to the dude, I was like, bro, this recycle shit sucks. He was very like, well, everything in FL sounds tinny and bad and thin. It was basically just because Soulja Boy had put out that song that was all stock sounds. I even think that mix is good on that song. I think it's just people heard the stock sounds on Crank That Soulja Boy and were just like, ew, we need to use not stock sounds.